That'll go in the bloopers. All right, everyone. So this is my boy Kevin. I've known him since 7th grade. Kevin, do you remember our first day when we met?
Toast up, toast up. My boy QK. Shout out for having me here, man. It's home, chilling. Yeah, 7th grade. I just had moved to Long Island. Bayshore represent. I always say, Bushwick made me, Bayshore raised me. So at 12, we moved over there. They gave me a schedule for the suburbs, the new little fresh suburbs. And in health class, my man QK, I sat next to him. And man QK, he started this friendship that's now been 23 years. So he was initiated to it. I was a lot, and still am a little more like an introverted side. But he just straight up said, "What up?"
Yeah, I don't remember that at all.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was. I remember Mr. Spruitt was our teacher.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean so we've known each other for I think 23 years now, showing our age a little bit. But he's a licensed therapist, and I'm super into psychology, so I thought he'd be a great guest. So thanks for coming on, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Pleasure being here, man. So just for a correction, I'm a pre-licensed therapist. So I am an MHC LP, which is limited permit, but I'll be done with that 2025, and then I'll be fully licensed at that point.
He's just being humble. It's the
truth.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that, shout out to people who are licensed, because it takes an extra set of requisites to get there. So I don't want to tell anybody something I'm not.
Right.
Same, Papa.
So I know him for a long time now, so I know him pretty well. But we're going to dive into the parts that I already know or maybe don't already know.
He knows everything.
Pretty much.
Everything.
But you guys don't, so that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So let's start with what we were talking about a few weeks ago. We never actually finished the conversation. You said you had some sort of theory about people, how people's childhoods affected their current relationships. Do you remember we were talking via text, and you had some sort of theory about that we never got to finish? Do you remember that?
Not particularly. It's probably something that we talked about, but it makes sense as something that I would talk about.
You said something like you're starting to notice a lot of your clients have the same problems, and then and I remember I said something along the lines of what was once adaptive is now maladaptive. Do you remember that? It was a few weeks ago.
Okay, so the first conversation is like relationship.
Yeah, relationships.
Interpersonal relationships.
And even more specifically, how the childhood affects the relationship.
Well, that's the first interpersonal relationship, right? Like your caregivers. When you pop out that wound and you still got the umbilical cord, those people who take you home are your first relationship, if you have people to take you home. So it starts there. It starts as soon as you come out, dude. It even starts before that. But, some of the people on certain side of the political agendas like to discredit certain existence made by something that's more superior than us. We'll leave it like that. You see, like the quote, the wordplay. But it starts there, man. It starts at inception. So yeah, I think when it comes to how you were parented, nurtured, and the environment you were in and how you were socialized pretty much has everything to do with how you are as an adult and how you relate to other people as adults, whether it's friendships, familyships, colleagues, and even your relationship with yourself.
Yeah, that's a great point. Everything starts at childhood. When
100%.
when you're a child, that's when your brain is being molded, and that's when you're learning the world and where you're learning yourself and where you're learning how to survive. Some people. So I want to talk more about how it specifically affects our relationships as adults, because the world, we pretty much just started talking about this when you think about it, and I know there are different attachment styles. Do you know the 5 different attachment styles?
The anxious, avoidant, anxious. One of them is like dysregulated, and some other stuff, and insecure is.
Yeah, the secure is the safe. Secure is the one with the good childhood.
Utopian.
Right.
Nobody's really secured.
Right.
Unless you're in a mountain and you're like a guru and you have nothing in the world to phase you, then you're probably secured.
Right. So which attachment style are you, Kevin?
I'm a mix between anxious, avoidant. I've noticed that I'm more of an anxious person, and I think at some point maybe I was a little bit more avoidant, but I learned to manage my anxiety and kind of push through it, which helped me both with the anxious and the avoidant, because I was taking charge, which helped me with the avoidant, and I was superseding the anxiety. So that was helping me with the anxiety. And I say helping in the past tense, but it's actually the everyday thing. Like it's part of who I am as my identity. So as I know it, I work with it.
Your anxiety is part of your identity.
Yeah, at this point. It's part of our identity as humans. Anxiety is very natural. You know, our forefathers and people before us needed anxiety. Mm-hmm. It kept us sharp. It kept us not, you know, alive, survival. It kept us not being attacked by wolves and things. And so the anxiety is actually very necessary back in the day, you know, but it's also still part of our genetic disposition. Like 40,000 years of being human, we come with certain things, and anxiety is one of them. So certain people have different levels of anxiety and different ways of like receiving anxiety. But we all kind of carry some level of anxiety with us.
Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes from Dr. K is, emotions are there to help us survive, not be happy. So for example, like being anxious if a lion is walking towards you will help you survive because now you're going to run. Mm-hmm. Now you're going to get another adrenaline rush. So, but I want to go back to the point where you said that anxiety is part of our identity. Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm not sure about how I feel about like your emotions being part of your identity. Like they define who you are. You know, so if someone is depressed, is that their identity? Like they're a depressed person? Like, is that fair to slap them, you know, to label a depressed person or a person who's high in anxiety? Is it fair to say that that's part of their identity? Is that fair?
I guess maybe another word for identity, what would we say? It's part of our primitive existence. Mm-hmm. Which in my head, I guess, becomes part of my identity, but is part of our primitive existence of being humans.
Right. So I don't know how, you know, I don't know what you're willing to share, what you're not willing to share. And, you know, obviously I'm here to respect boundaries, but, you know, we have talked in the past about your anxiety. Yeah. And do you want to talk about the roots of that or not so much?
It starts with my childhood. Like we said before, it starts with my childhood. It starts with being born to first generation Latino parents who immigrated to New York, who didn't speak English, who lived, you know, in Bushwick projects before Bushwick was Bushwick. Nowadays we probably would have stood there, right? Mm-hmm. And then it just like gravitates to what I experienced into my 20s and to what I experienced today within this realm. So I think instead of trying to identify as anxiety as like a negative emotion, for me is like I learn from it, because just like anxiety and anger and joy and all these other things are emotions, is like, for me, where's the value in labeling them negative? I could label them for what they are. They may have symptoms that are negative to my life. So then I learn from that, and then I like do better. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm kind of like at war with it a little bit, but like strategically, because primitively I need to feed certain emotions. It's the same way I need to feed my hunger. It's the same thing with emotions. We as humans have to like feed those emotions.
How do you feed your anxiety? How do you do that?
Well, the anxiety is, I think at this point I've learned to transmute the anxiety.
What does that mean? Help me understand what that means.
So it's like you feel an emotion and you know there's a level of like charge to it. Right. So let's say like 90% charge of anger. Right. So it's like you try to take that same level of charge, the 90%, and then you veer it to something else. So you veer it to something that's going to be productive or something that's going to, you know, soothe the anxiety sometimes. Right. So it's more just like, that's why I say like managing it, transmuting it is like your management of it. And I think also learning it, learning the symptomologies, learning of where it may have stemmed from, you know, and accepting those things for what they are, rather than, you know, shaming myself about anxiety or past experience that's causing me anxiety, or even living through my anxiety now, right? Because then I'm just loathing. Instead of doing that, it's like I take action, and then the anxiety has nothing to do but to chill out while I'm taking anxious, because I'm just a level of energy and awareness at a time. So even if I am anxious, doing whatever I need to do, I get it done. And over time, I've learned that that's the best way to manage it. Even like this conversation, right? Like back in my day when I had some serious social anxiety growing up, bro, I couldn't even go to like the store without like overthinking it. Like I would think, I'm going to the store with $1 to get 50 cents chip. I'm going to give him the $1. Hopefully he gives me the 50 cents back. I say thank you and I walk out.
You planned it all in your head.
Everything was already so pre-planned, and I was like, I hope that I don't have to run into anybody. I hope nobody's there. Like it was a serious level of anxiety. And I think over time and experience and plenty of other things, you know, I got to realize that I can do something about the anxiety. Like I don't have to, like you said before, like it doesn't have to be me. So I agree with that part. Like it doesn't have to be me. And maybe I have a heightened level of anxiety and other like symptoms. I think I have heightened levels of things. Again, just my genetic disposition and how I grew up and just how I am as a person. But it's how I manifest and manage those emotions.
Right, because no matter what, we're going to feel negative emotions. We're going to feel anxiety, we're going to feel anger, embarrassment, shame, guilt.
Everything.
We're going to feel them. All you get to decide is what you do with them, how you process them, what you do out in the world. And it sounds to me like you've, I don't want to use the word overcome, but you've gotten much better at managing it.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me like it used to be worse. And how did you get from point A to point B? How did you decrease it? How did you do that?
That's a long story, man. That one's a longer story.
We got the time.
That was a long story because I was near my quarter life crisis. So I was near like 23, 24, coming out of college, you know, not really knowing what I want to do in my life. And then just asking questions and more going into a deeper mental and spiritual exploration of my life. So certain questions that I had just about life in general. And I think during that time, you know, I was able to explore inward a lot. And then it helped me manage and have a different perspective at the exterior world that I was having. And it gave me better sense of confidence and control over the decisions that I can make. So my own personal choices of what I can do in my body and my mind. And then acting in that way, then I disconfirm or invalidated the anxiety slowly. And then I built this other system or system of beliefs about anxiety and other parts of my life. And so as I'm confirming that new bias, then that gets built up because I'm getting positive results and I'm also surviving. So then I was able to combat the anxiety, because the anxiety thought it was helping me survive. That's what anxiety thinks. It thinks it's going to help you not get mentally or physically hurt in the future. So it goes through these role plays in your head. But in this case, now I'm like, bro, you're causing me not to take action. You know, so as I saw a different outlook and perspective on the anxiety and the results, slowly over time, that other anxiety is crippled, right? Because when it's in my head trying to tell me something, I'm just like, bro, we've been through this before. We survived, so chill out. I'm going to take care of it tomorrow. Shut the fuck up. I'm going to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And I go to sleep. Yeah. Obviously, it's not that easy. It took a lot of work. It took therapy. You know, as a therapist myself, I had training as well. It took working with people, studying psychology, whatever the case is. You know, and at the age of 35 now. Shout out to QK. His birthday was yesterday. I'm boy's 35.
I caught up.
Yeah, he's always the last one of the crew.
Yeah.
He's the youngest one, so he's a baby of the crew.
Basically.
So, you know, and that's how I manage my anxiety. Do I still have anxiety? Hell yeah. Shit, I got anxiety right now. You know what I'm saying? But it's a part of me. So it keeps me sharp too. So I don't know what I would do without less anxiety. I think I'd be a little bit more passive and complacent. The anxiety either takes charge, and if I try to suppress it or ignore it, then that causes other symptoms, which I'm not a fan of.
What other symptoms does it cause?
It causes more depressive symptoms because now I'm so much in my head that I'm exhausting that I'm hitting the gas tank so much that I'm just at this point overwhelmed and overheated. So then the depressive symptoms kind of want to creep in more. You know, and then it's at some point that get exhausted and we go back to some sort of baseline or something.
Hedonic adaptation. So I have a million questions right now, but I want to do it in time order.
Sure.
So we did talk a little bit about your childhood. You said you had Latino parents. They moved to America. They were born in Ecuador.
Ecuadorian.
So my question to you, and again, I don't know how comfortable you are with sharing all this.
Papa.
So how were they as parents? Did they show you a lot of love? Were they aggressive? How were they as parents?
Well, shout out to my parents, right? Shout out to them, and shout out to everyone who came before them. I have nothing but love and respect for their parenting style and what they did of myself and my siblings. They did everything within their knowledge, their power, and their experience. And they did that from learning from their ancestors' knowledge, power, and experience. So they did the best they could with what they had, both in their knowledge and also in their environment as well. So there were hard times, there were good times, but at the end of the day, I'm so grateful that they stood the whole time. Because, I think that's where it starts when we don't have present parents. It's a whole bowl of chaos and no order. So I had both my parents throughout, and it was amazing. Now I look back, I'm like, yo, God bless, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, they did all they had. I would do different things differently as a parent. I think now I'm like the next level of the evolutionary DNA, right? Like, now I'm wanting to do even better for my kids, and them doing even better for theirs, right? It's like a generational thing. But it was tough growing up. It was a lot nicer in the suburbs than it was in Brooklyn, that's for sure. But then over time, they've instilled values in me that even through anxiety, depression, whatever the case is, I was able to look forward and keep pushing. So I think those values, especially also religious values, family values, and just personal morality, that has made me a decent person even outside of how useful I am in society. So shout out to them for that. It took tough love and soft love, because I was a hell of a kid, right? Like, I always had this energy and this charge. So, they just try to manage that with the best they could, and teach me how to manage it with the best they could. And then when I became an adult, then I had the full autonomy of repairing certain parts that were damaged in my childhood. I had to come to a level of accepting and also moving forward and learning from those things. And that's what I did, so I don't, and I had some difficult conversations with them too. And so, again, shout out to my parents. They've evolved and grown over time. Like, the conversation I have with them now would not be remotely the same 10 years ago, 15, 20, 30. Over time, we come to a little bit more of our senses. I know one thing you said before, in the beginning, was children's brain are moldable. Well, all humans' brains are moldable. Just as adults, we built this concrete around our brain. And then over time, then that becomes a little bit, cracked, like old concrete. And then we become a little bit more receptive sometimes as well. But I'm not saying that not all adults are not receptive, but, we're kind of a little bit more stuck in our ways. And my parents evolved. So they're not, they're still my parents, you know what I'm saying? There's certain things and things they're still not flexible, you know what I'm saying? We look around society, there's certain things they don't accept still, that is, especially New York City type shit, but,
So there are two words that come to my mind when you speak about your childhood. The two words that come to my mind are survival mode. Did you feel like you were in survival mode growing up?
Not all the time, but there was always a layer of it, yes.
And has that survival mode feeling shaken off, or do you still kind of feel that?
Oh, I'm still hungry. I'm hungry.
But hungry is one thing, but survival mode is you're going day by day, you feel like you're not living, and you feel like you're just trying to survive. You understand?
Oh, I guess I've never been in survival mode then. I thought you meant just wanting to make ends meet and being productive.
No, so by survival mode, what I mean is every day you're waking up trying so hard just to get through the day.
Oh, nah.
So you didn't feel like that as a child?
Nah. Even when I was the more teenage depressive phase, I always had a sense of purpose. Like I always had a purpose. I don't even know how else to explain it. Like I was always in school. The motivation wasn't always there, and the ambition sometimes was dry, but it was always like a purpose. I think I know what you're trying to say. Like every day was just a dread, and I'm like, oh my god, here goes another day. I mean, I felt like that at times, but I don't know how much of a long of a period is to call it that I was in survival mode. Like when I was working full time, and going to school and things, it was very mundane. It was very repetitive. But I don't think growing up was like that. I think my parents put enough of a safe space for us and a very grateful space, even though they did it in their own way. Whereas like we wake up another day, it's like, yo, God bless. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here again. I guess I'll roll the dices again and live this life one more day. So I think they've instilled gratefulness and a level of like faith that it's like, you know what I'm saying? It supports that kind of just dreadful, like very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like negative, but like not pessimistic, a little bit deeper. Whereas like everything, you could always see everything in a negative side. Everything is lacking.
Realistic?
Well, it's realistic for some folks, right? Where they just focus on the lack. You know, I guess my parents trained my brain to like focus on
the bad,
not the fundamental that I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if I'm complaining about anything right now, it's like, bro, okay, you still here though. So everything else is secondary. Everything outside of the breath is secondary. Like we can't live without 3 minutes of breathing, you know? So it's like once you appreciate one breath. You ever had an asthma attack? You have an asthma attack. You don't care about, this little podcast. You don't care about making a new song or breakdancing. You just want to breathe. So the level of awareness that you have and gratitude towards that, everything else is secondary, bro.
Yeah. So I have a question because I want to talk about this a little bit more because I have a lot to say, but I want to ask the questions before I say it.
Sure.
So I one question that I have is, did you ever at some point have some resentment towards your parents?
I felt like the progressive liberal lefts in the last 10 years have made me want resentment towards my family, towards my religion, and towards a part of who I am. So I had a phase of that like little thing, but then I got grounded. I had a phase of it being resent of the white patriarchal society.
But what about your parents?
That oppresses. Well, I think in hindsight, that as a something that was an ideology that was pushed upon us, part of it was to resent my parents. Part of it was like, it was their fault you grew up with anxiety. It was their fault you grew up in poverty. It was their fault they didn't let you be whoever you wanted to become and do whatever you wanted to do with your mind and your body, right? And now you're liberated. You can do whatever you please. It's yours. And having this ideology of this individualistic ideology. So there was a time where they tried that on me, but then
Who's they?
Like just society.
Okay.
I feel like outside of my family scope.
Okay.
Like I feel the schools. Okay. I feel the media, the music, the every all those interactions in society, environmentally. So all these ideas that we get about who's governing us and all that other stuff, right? Like that was pushed upon me. And there was a time where I was like, oh yeah, I want to be, my brain, my body, my life. I make the choices. My parents didn't let me make the choices. They oppressed me. They beat me. They abused me. And like you built this level of resent. They're like, come with us. We're all like that. And we got to be liberated. And I didn't buy into that. Like I knew, there were certain things that I had to work through that my parents weren't the best at, but I don't shame them for it. Shit, if I was in their position, I'd beat my little ass too. I was crazy, you know what I'm saying?
But there were times when they were over aggressive.
Yeah, because they didn't know better, man.
Right.
They were scared. I read in one book once, it was like, you know, as I got older, I understood my parents beat me because the streets were going to beat me even harder. Mm-hmm. So, shit, I'd rather be beat by my parents. Now I look back, at least I didn't go out and do stupid shit.
So, let's think about this for a second. So, it sounds to me like you don't put resentment on your parents.
No, I don't. Anybody. On anyone.
Well, I would disagree with that, because you said you don't put resentment on your parents for the overaggression, for the anxiety, for the way that you don't put your aggression on your parents.
No.
So then my question is, if you don't put it on your parents, then where does it go?
It doesn't exist.
It goes to yourself.
No, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. I don't have resentment. I have gratitude. I can't resent.
So I want to.
There's two different things.
So I want to share a quick story. So I was speaking to a woman just yesterday on my birthday. I did an interview on my birthday.
Oh, nice.
And she was saying that, you know, growing up, she put all the blame on herself. When she was a kid, she put all the blame on herself. And then what happened was around like 16, 17, maybe a little bit older, she started to realized that her parents growing up were over aggressive, and then what she did essentially was she started to put some of the blame on them, and then what happened was over time that process and then the resentment evaporated, and then the resentment went away. So the point that I'm trying to make, and you probably see it, is maybe putting some resentment. I know this sounds crazy, but you know, maybe that's one reason why you have anxiety, because you put so much of the blame on yourself rather than your parents. And maybe you should put some of the blame on your parents and then process it from there, and then it'll evaporate. Because I think that when you put a lot of the blame on yourself, that causes anxiety and that causes depressive symptoms. Maybe what you should do is understand they were over aggressive, transfer some resentment towards them, and then it'll evaporate from there.
But I don't have resent to begin with. How am I trying to transfer something I don't have? I don't.
Well, you did mention the word self-loathing before.
I forgot exactly what I was talking about, but I think that was like maybe a period of my life.
Well, let's think about it this way. So when a kid gets beat, right? There will be either two perceptions. Either it's my fault or it's my parents' fault. Right. Those are the only two perceptions that a kid can have.
I'm not a kid.
No. But at the time you were, though. Right?
Yeah, I worked through that.
But let's think about this, though. Yeah. So at the time, you didn't blame your parents. You put the blame on yourself.
I probably did.
And what I'm trying to say that is that it kind of stuck with you, that putting your blame, that internal locus of control, putting the blame on yourself kind of stuck with you. And what I would argue is that maybe sometimes, you know, maybe blaming yourself for something that's not even your fault plays a large role in your anxiety and in your depressive symptoms, because you are so busy putting the blame on yourself. Maybe you should transfer some blame to your parents.
What am I blaming? I don't have a blame. That's my thing. Like my anxiety is just my anxiety. Mm-hmm. There's no like miracle cure to it, or like, I don't know. This event or these other exterior circumstances may have like influenced my internal world, but you know, in terms of blaming, I don't blame anyone for. I mean, now I'm 100% accountable to everything.
Right, but see, so right there, maybe that's, you know, maybe you're not 100% accountable.
I'm 100% accountable.
But maybe you shouldn't be.
Why?
Because some things aren't your fault, right? Some things aren't your fault. I mean, if you stepped outside right now and got robbed, that wouldn't be your fault.
Who told me to step outside right now and not wait 30 minutes? Or who told me to come here?
But what happens to a person when they constantly put all the blame on themselves about everything? What happens to that person?
They are self-accountable people.
What happens to them emotionally and mentally, if you put all the blame on yourself?
It depends on how they're internalizing all these things. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't see it in a negative light. You know, one thing I was saying before is this something I spoke to my mom about over the weekend. Is like, even if I like and this is where it gets a little bit spiritual when we talk about God. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about God because there's a lot of resent there. But when, let's say I get a cop pulls me over in the corner and I get a $150 ticket, what's a natural reaction that most people will get?
Asshole cop.
Asshole cop, if I didn't do this, if I didn't do that, you know, whatever, it's his fault, it's my fault, whatever the case is. In my head, I'm like, damn, I bet this sucks. But guess what? Maybe the next block or 2 blocks from now, I would have got hit by a DWI person, right? Or I would have hit someone and killed someone. So God put this $150 ticket in front of me just to avoid a bigger circumstance that I would have had to really then been like, oh shit, life sucks, right? So when you have that level of perspective, it's very hard to shake that up. You know, when that's so internalized in your brain and body, it's powerful, it's magical, because it's like, I don't have control of the exterior world and sometimes not even the interior world, but God did. You know what I'm saying? Like all the time. So it's like, if I submit to that and I have faith that God is looking out for me, no matter the circumstance, no matter if my parents beat me, no matter if I had to grow up in poverty, no matter if how I look, if I'm ugly, if I'm smart, if I'm dumb, no matter, then it's like, it's not my choice. You know, it's like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just living out purpose. I'm just living out.
So there are some people who feel that putting the blame on themselves empowers them. Like, do you feel empowered? Because I guess the idea is, if I put the blame on myself, then now I don't feel so powerless to the world. So some people find that process empowering, to put the blame on themselves, because now they're not a victim to the world. And it's a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism that some people use to feel empowered. They put you see what I'm saying?
In power, in control.
Right. So would you?
So I'm in control of certain things in my life.
But what about the things that you're not in control of?
Why am I gonna think about it, dude? Like, I have 70,000 thoughts in a day. Why am I gonna spend 10,000 of them on things that I can't control?
Right.
I'd rather spend that same thought, power and energy, and make moves and do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it takes, I make it maybe sound simple. It's not. It's simple, but it's not easy, right? But it's, again, like, this part we skipped over was like, there was actual work needed to be done in order to understand that better, right? So it's like, it takes work. And it takes going to therapy. Shit, I'm with this therapist 2.5 years now, right? So, and I'm a therapist, so it's like, it's something I learned very early on. It's like, my supervisors and people I looked up to, my professors, who were like top tier, they all had therapists, and I was like, yo, what the fuck? Because you had to have a level of internal work done before you could get in that playing field, and also conditioning as well is something. It's not just like you work on certain things and then you get to go like, no, like I said before, we're not in some mountain in Asia with Buddhists just chilling in the forest. We're in New York City. It's gritty out here. It's constant scars that you're gonna get. It's like, how do you work through those things, right? So it's the work, bro. It's the work.
So, but I really want to stick to this blame topic for a little bit more. Because, so isn't putting all the blame on yourself, isn't that somewhat dichotomous thinking? Isn't it safe to say some things are some other people's fault, some things are my fault? Isn't it safe to say?
I mean, at a certain level, yeah. Like, if you didn't feed me when I came in, that's your fault.
Right.
But
so we're getting somewhere.
It's going to be your fault, but
right,
I'm not going to, it's part of life. It's not going to bother me. It's just, I'm going to be like, damn, I could have done better. So it goes back to me.
So it always goes back to you.
Because it's my emotion. It's my reaction to the exterior world. It's my interior world. So I have to find a way to manage that. And, I know ways in which to cope and manage those negative emotions, and it starts with, okay, the exterior world might have thrown this at me and I'm feeling this emotion now. What is under my control in order for me to cope, deal with, or supersede this emotion? it's always a constant. It's a constant thing for almost everything, right? Unless I'm enjoy happiness, I don't even think I just just soak in it. But if it's like a situation, I have to like address it. I can't just sit on negative emotions. Like there's a lifespan of it, and I think what therapy does, it helps you figure that out, and you have just shorter lifespans in less increments. That's what I always tell my clients. I'm like, you're gonna be depressive. You've had depressive moods. The goal in therapy is now to have less depressive moods, so them to last shorter and to be less frequent. It's not to get rid of your depression, bro.
Never happened.
Like I mean, some really good therapy maybe, or some epiphany.
There will always be sadness. There's
always gonna be that. Exactly. Right. So that's the thing with blame, bro. Like at the end of the day, if there's a lingering emotion in my existence, who else am I gonna blame for that? I can't blame anyone else for that. I'm the one experiencing it. We get here alone, we leave alone. That's what I always tell people. I don't tell my clients that because it's kind of morbid. But you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, you got here by yourself. You got your shit cut, your umbilical cord cut, and when you out by yourself, big dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, just you gotta figure it out. That's it. I don't say that to my clients. There's some like more psychologically oriented ways of saying it.
More compassionate ways of saying it.
Compassionate, and not only that, but it's like when the number one thing about therapy is the therapeutic relationship, right? So one thing I do is like I have to understand my client in order for me to present something that's going to be receivable, right? Like our number one rule as therapists is that we do no harm. Like we do nothing. We don't make the clients worse, right? We might not be better, right? Yeah, it takes work, and that's not always, therapy is not 100%. But, we're there this is their session, you know what I'm saying? So I have to learn how their brain works. I have to learn about their experiences.
Yep, as fast as possible.
Well, it's 45-minute sessions once a week usually. So, it's a process.
Yeah.
I think that's a whole other conversation. But the fact that we want everything fast, easy, convenient, and comfortable is a detriment to society. And, that's that, man.
Yeah, so let's delve into the dating a little bit more, because we kind of we put it in the backseat, and this is something that everyone's talking about right now. A lot of people are struggling with. There's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of divorces and people being single, and people struggling right now to find love. I know you have a girlfriend. So how long have you been together now?
It's been a little minute.
So I want to connect the last topic, because how would you say, and this question, I'm sure you've thought about this question, it does require a lot of thinking. How would you say your childhood affects your current relationships today?
Oh, it does, 100%.
Let's talk about that.
It maximizes it.
So help me understand.
Because it's like you're getting as open and vulnerable and like caring, and you're bringing in that hard emotion of love so much, you're navigating it so much that the real things that emulate that, it's like your first loves, which is the people who care for you in the beginning. Yep. So it maximizes things and puts out pockets of where the things you gotta work on and things. Especially we talked about before, like my anxious avoidant type shit. So that then it's like it's like a new challenge in a video game. Like you're getting to the next level of, now you have to you were just Mario, now you're Mario and Luigi, and Luigi's right behind you. So you know what I'm saying? So a lot of things that you may just have put aside or not thought about, or just been so habitual that you never been questioned on, start to come in relationships. And shout out to my girlfriend, man. She's awesome.
So my understanding of anxious avoidant is someone who is constantly putting up walls, and someone who maybe feel like their partner might leave them, and maybe they're anxious that their partner might leave them. Help me understand. What is your understanding of anxious avoidant? What is that?
So the anxious is like you've coped with your caregiver not being around by trying to self-soothe, right? Because we talked about anxiety before. It's like you want to know the future. So you want to like tell yourself something and saying to yourself that your caregiver is going to come back in a day or two if they left, right? The avoidant, I guess, is more like my caregiver left and now I'm going to avoid getting too attached to them because they're going to leave again, right? So then they have strategies in which they're even self-sabotaging and pushing folks away before they even get too close, because internally they have an intrinsic belief, unconscious a lot of times, that their person is going to leave them. So they're going to put the wall up even beforehand, because we're all here to protect our hearts. So when it comes to these relationships, and I need to understand that we built a system in order to protect that, and it was the shield, right? And part of the shield, some people wear a
defense
mask.
mechanism.
Yeah, some people wear a mask as well. They come in with a mask and a shield, and then it's like over time you then become more open and vulnerable to putting your heart out there. But then a lot of the old experiences of when you had your heart out there without the shield start to pop up. And then you got to deal with those, Papa. Or the shield is going to come back, and the shield is always going to protect. Because the shield has 100% accuracy rate. Because the shield has got you down to watching this video to this point, right? And the shield is going to say, bro, you survived, your parents because of me. All right, so don't think that you can do without me because I'm important. And it becomes part of, again, our identity, a system that we've created, an ego that we created, right? A sense of self, and it comes with that shield. So most folks, this shield is so strong, they didn't even get to the point of where they even want to like look at the shield. You know what I'm saying? Like because it's so deeply ingrained. But you need to understand it so you can like work with the shield and allow yourself to build connections with people, love bonds with people. And that takes, again, a lot of work in understanding the shield, being comfortable with your heart being torn a little bit, scratched sometimes, hopefully not kicked too hard, but, taking that with grace as well. And it's something I work with clients a lot, actually.
Kevin, do you feel that you deserve to be loved?
I am loved.
Do you feel that you deserve to be loved?
I am loved. I am loved every day. If not, I wouldn't be here. So I'm loved by something more powerful than my emotions can handle, something more powerful than my little heart and my little self can even understand. Because if I wasn't loved, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have the people around me to care for me and make sure I'm good.
Right, but whether you are loved is a different question.
I'm not entitled to a minute of this day. So,
but do you deserve
I don't
love?
deserve a minute of this day.
Why not?
Because it's not mine to control. I could hop out of here. Someone could, want my ugly sweater, and I'm gonna say no, and they're gonna poke me in the rib, and I'm gonna bleed to death, and I'm done. So who says that I don't deserve this? I don't know why I get blessed with another day, but I take it in stride.
Kevin, I think you deserve to be loved.
I don't know. I can't deserve any. I don't deserve anything, dude.
I think I'm
not entitled to it. I'm not entitled to anything in this world.
That sounds like a really, really difficult philosophy to carry.
It's amazing, actually, because it makes you grateful for even being here, with love or without. Because if I don't have this emotion of joy, because a lot of love these days is synonymous with joy and excitement, then I am not good, or I am not happy. Like, I can't stand those words, be like happiness. I can't stand
Why can't you say that word?
I can't stand happiness.
Why is that? Why?
Because it's the same as sadness. It's just, so it's like, okay, so you deserve happiness, but you don't deserve sadness? Fine. If I deserve love, I deserve suffering as well. And I deserve every other emotion. And I'll probably take that. I'll take that. I deserve every emotion that I receive. But I don't deserve just one particular emotion.
Right. Well, the question was, do you deserve happiness 24/7? That wasn't No, that wasn't the question.
Oh.
The question was, do you deserve to be loved?
I don't think I deserve it, nah. Or unless I deserve everything. I deserve everything I get. Let's put it that way. Fine. It's a yes or a no.
No, it just sounds like a very, it sounds like a very heavy philosophy to carry around.
It's beautiful. It's very light. It keeps me very light and humble and hungry and like ready for war, but also ready for peace and prayer.
But another thing it does is that when you receive love, you're going to feel awkward.
I love love.
When you receive compliments, sometimes you're going to feel awkward.
I'm fine with compliments. I'm okay with. I don't need them. It's not I don't internalize it as love. You know what I'm saying? Love for me is, you breaking bread with me. You giving me a cup of coffee, a cup of water, you know what I'm saying? Like spending your quality time and energy with me. That's for me, that's love.
What I'm hearing is, what I see and what I'm hearing is someone who doesn't like the idea of needing things. You don't like the idea of needing things. You don't like the idea of needing compliments. You don't like the idea of needing love. You don't like the idea of needing things. That's what I'm getting.
I mean, I'm cool if I need things to survive, but I don't need.
Do you need love
to survive? Fuck, it'll suck, dude.
Do you need love to be happy, or to have inner peace? Do you need love for inner peace?
I think I would be grateful to even be able to say that I don't have love. Help me understand. Makes sense.
Help me understand that,
because my existence, my livelihood, me being alive. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I need. I need to breathe.
So here's what I'm hearing.
I need to eat. I need to sleep.
So here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a person who tries extremely hard to be grateful. And I
am grateful, dude.
Yes, because you put in the work, right? You're putting the mental work. So it's
automatic at this point.
But you put in a lot of mental work to try to be grateful, and then the idea of needing things might sound like somewhat of a threat. Because if you need something, then now you're setting yourself up for possible disappointment. And I'm hearing a person who doesn't like the idea of needing things and who views someone needing something as somewhat of a threat and a possible disappointment. So you'd rather say, I don't need that. I don't need love. I don't need X. I don't need Y. Because then it's setting yourself up for disappointment.
I want love, Papa.
Want and need are two different things.
Yeah, I don't need, because I'm going to still survive.
Yeah, but could you be happy?
Oh, now we're talking about that word.
Or inner peace. Let's say inner peace.
Those are two different things.
Well, let's say, all right, so let's talk about that. What's the difference between happiness and inner peace?
Well, happiness is more of like an emotional state. It's like
dopamine,
physiology. Yeah. Inner peace is it's a level of existence. It could be, and whatever emotion that you have peace with it. It's like, it is what it is. So, do I want people to love me more or like show me love? Yeah, it's cool. I like people show me love. Like, that's cool. But it's like, I don't need it. I'll be all right.
You'll survive. I get the point. But
I have more valuable things to need to want to do than.
But what's more valuable than love?
Giving love.
Why is giving love more valuable than receiving love? Because
there's a cycle. And I feel like the more I can give it and the more I can appreciate life in general, it gets like tenfold in my way. Like, I don't even know why, dude.
But also, if you don't receive love, you won't have any motivation to give it. Right?
Giving love, I receive it. Sometimes it's instant, sometimes it's long term. You know what I'm saying? I like making people's day. I like cooking for people. You know me. Every time you came to my crib, I cook something up for you.
Yes.
And that goes with family members.
Why do you cook for us? Why?
Because that's a need that you need. You need food. You need water. And it gives me like purpose that I'm fulfilling an essential need of yours, which is food.
It makes you
even
feel.
If it's like shelter. Like if you don't have a home and you're like, yo, Kev, can I come through? It's yes on an instant.
That happened once.
Oh yeah, there. Look at that. So it's like, it's not even a question because I'm servicing a human. You know what I'm saying?
How did it
Jesus theory.
How did it feel to service me that night when I had nowhere to stay? How did it feel to let
me? It felt right. It felt right. It felt like the right thing to do. It felt like it was a thing I was meant to do.
Did you feel valued?
No, I mean, I know you valued me for that day.
Did Did you feel loved that day?
Did I feel? I felt love, but I felt love from giving that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt the love, let's say. I felt the love. And I was cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt the love. Same way I felt the love 3 or 4 birthdays ago when my car broke down and you came through and you helped me out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but in that situation, I gave to you. In the other situation, you gave to me.
Yeah.
So...
But like, you know, I received it. I would have survived if you would have not came. I would have, you know, I'm someone who's proactive. I get it done. But I felt the love. So I was like, damn, you know, this is commitment, loyalty. This is love.
Do you hate the idea of needing love?
Needing love?
Yeah. Or do you hate the idea of wanting love?
I think I have a good enough relationship with the power above to like feel that I am missing something. That'd be love. That'd be anything. Like,
what are you missing right now?
I mean, my health could be better, but even that, like, I'm still here. I'm still rocking out. I still have a decent enough physical health, but it could be a lot better. What do I need?
No, what do you want? What do you want right now? Yeah.
At this very moment?
No, what do you want in life? Because when I hear people speak, 99% of people want more.
Okay, I mean, what I want in life?
What do you want? What do you want in life?
I want peace of mind. And I think that's always comes forefront. Peace of mind. You know, I want to be able to hold myself to the same standards and principles that I know are right. And, you know, I want shit, man.
Want kids?
Like, oh, that's a pulse for me right there. Cause
why do you want kids?
'Cause kids is the most important part of existence. There is no existence without the next generation. You have to breed. It's the most primitive things in our life. There would be no humanity if we stop breeding.
Right.
So I want to be part of that. I want to continue my DNA and, you know, the legacy that my ancestors created and started. You know, and I want to be able to contribute down to that line. And also there's so much purpose in kids, and, you know, so much unconditioned love there as well. And, you know, you get to do it with the right person. It's game on from there, right? So
let's analyze though. You said there's unconditional love with kids. So what that means is that you want kids for love.
Nah, it's not for love. Regardless of the love factor. You know, I know kids I'm going to be able to love them, and, you know, at some point maybe they'll be able to do that receptive to me, but I don't want kids just for love. Nah.
So what is like the number one reason why you want kids? The number one reason?
Primitively? Or, because primitively, like, shit, who's going to take care of you when you're 70, 80, 90, 100?
So it's about being taken care of.
Primitively, our forefathers and people before us, yeah, who's going to take care of you?
A robot at this point.
Well,
at this point.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. And spiritually as well. You know, I know, again, people tune out when you talk about spiritually and religion and things like that. That's because of, you know, the current 2024. Hopefully 10, 15 years from now, when my kids listen to this podcast, you know, they'll be like, damn, daddy was a little bit ahead of the game in that sense. But we need to bring religion and spirituality back. And I think that spiritually, my life lives on through our kids.
Your life?
Life, my ancestors' life. It's not about me. I'm not an individual figure. Like, individually, I'm here, but spiritually, I'm with ancestors.
So you sound like a very spiritual person.
It's something like that. I have a good connection with spirit.
How would you define spiritual? How would you define that?
It's faith, a sense of knowing and being confident in the unknown, a sense of purpose, a sense of value, principles, system, a sense of existence. So, yeah, I don't know. That's spiritual for me.
I had a psychology teacher. Even though I didn't major in psychology, I still took psychology. This was years ago, but he said something I'll never, ever forget. He said, if you want kids to be loved, that's a really, really bad reason to have kids. And I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
You know, because why? Because you have to discipline them. You have to discipline your kids, and when you discipline them, they're not going to love you after you spank them. Yeah. They're not in love with you after you tell them to go wash the dishes. So that's one, pearl of wisdom that always stuck with me when he said, even though I don't have kids still, it just stuck with me. It stuck in my head.
It sounds like there's potential.
We'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. I don't know.
It was a hard no. It was a hard no a year or two ago, guys.
Listen. I know right now I don't want kids. I know that. As far as when I'm 40, 45, 50, I don't know what I'll want later on.
Woo!
But as far as
that's different.
As far as right now, I don't know I don't want kids. But I really want to go back to the dating because this is a hot topic. We talked at it for like 2 minutes and then we switched topics.
Yeah,
for some
man.
reason.
The dating is crazy.
Let's talk about the
dating world.
So first, let's talk about problems, and then after that, we'll talk solutions. So first of all, what's the problem
with the dating world?
Yeah, what's the problem?
Look, man. I'm someone who always chops things down by the roots. You know, if I'm gonna go outside and pluck the weed, I'm gonna take it out by the roots. I'm not just gonna pluck the leaves. So I'm not gonna go into like the superficial level. I'm gonna go more into the deeper level. For whatever reason, I do not know why there is this. There's reasons behind like westernized culture. It's very meritocracy. It's like very individualistic. It's very like selfish in a way.
Narcissistic.
But it's to the point where people don't have connections anymore. And I think social media and things like that is like, I don't know why there's this push towards not having connections and like even like family and just you is like you against the world. Everybody wants to be LeBron James. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody wants to be the bench. Nobody wants to be the coach. Everybody wants to be the main character. And it's like, if you're not the main character, then like there's this something that you got to work on.
Well, that's narcissism, essentially. That's narcissism.
Well, I think we all have a level of narcissism.
Yeah, it's a sliding scale.
Yeah, I think we all have a level of narcissism, but and that's happening in the dating world. Whereas like one person's looking out for themselves, the other person's looking out for themselves, and they come together and then they still want to look out for themselves, but only give what they want to give and receive everything they want to receive. And it's like very like unrealistic expectations from both ends. So I think that's happening a lot in the dating world. And there's a push back against like marriage and traditional values, right? Because we're 2024 and we're smarter than our parents were, right? And we're cooler. So now like marriage is dead and commitment is dead, and it's like, bro, they were like waves of like people making songs, and it's so ingrained in the culture and society to like be happy. Be happy. Your girl's not making you happy, go get happiness. Your man is not making you happy, go get screw happiness, man. Yeah, it's too much. Let's put it this way. Dating right now is about pleasure, not purpose.
So it sounds to me like you're more about meaning and purpose rather than happiness.
The happiness will come, bro. You built the happiness. The happiness, you got to work for that and work to sustain it. That's it. Like, but it's more of a commitment, bro. It's more about purpose, and that's not, I don't think that's magnified in today's society. It's just like, you deserve love. You deserve happiness. Bro, get off, and go find it if you deserve it so goddamn much. You know what I'm saying? Like,
So what if I told you, Kevin, I feel like I deserve love?
It's good for you, man.
What is your most honest response to that?
What you from like a therapeutic?
No, your most like the real Kevin. What is your? Because I do feel like I deserve love. That's how I really feel, not hypothetical.
Yeah.
What is your honest? Forget about therapy. Forget about your license. What is your honest? What is your? You're not a therapist right now.
Yeah.
You're my boy.
Yeah.
What is your honest response?
You
to
have
that?
love.
I deserve.
You have love. You have to just find it.
I deserve.
You have to constantly.
I deserve more
work
love.
for it. Well, you had to put more work into finding that love.
No, true. I agree with that.
That's it.
I agree with that.
You do deserve love. God gives love to everyone in a plethora of ways, but you gotta find it, Papa.
So let's talk solution. We didn't get to the solutions. So what are the solutions to the dating world? What are the solutions?
Therapy and God. The combination of both is great. One is good as well. A submission to something outside of your own individualistic identity. Therapy and God.
Yeah, I definitely, even though I'm not the most religious guy, I definitely agree with, the idea that everyone is me, which is basically narcissism. And that's something that we could definitely agree on. And I think unrealistic expectations plays a very, very large role, both men and women, misogynists, radical feminists. I hear very, very unrealistic expectations from both sides. So would you agree with that? With that a lot of people have unrealistic expectations?
Yeah, and there's some sense of entitlement too.
Where does that entitlement come from?
Society tells you that you're special, that you're deserving, that
is anyone special?
One of one.
Is anyone special?
If everyone's special, no one's special.
Is anyone special?
In 2012, my history teacher, summer 2012, he told me that. He's like, yo, if everyone's special, no one's special.
Are you special?
And I was like, bet. No, hell no, not special.
Is anyone? Is anyone? Is your girl special?
No one's special, man. Because if we're all special, no one's special. We're all special. You've taken a plane a lot of times. When you're up there in the planes and you see how small the houses look and how you can't even see people. Fuck makes you so special, boy. You know how many people out here? Like, what is this entitlement? Like it's a Western genocide.
What are the consequences of feeling special?
Consequences we got now. You know what I'm saying? Like the sense of entitlement, the sense of like the work ethic, you know what I'm saying? Like the sense of like, I don't know, man, like autonomy and like choice, and I don't know, man. But I know I'm not special, dude.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering how that mentality affects you. Again, I feel like that's somewhat of an empowering and somewhat of a coping mechanism. Because if you feel like you're not special, maybe that, if you feel like nobody's special, maybe that might make you, feel better about the world and maybe about yourself.
Maybe.
So I'm hearing some cope and some putting up walls.
I mean, the walls. The wall.
Use the word
right now is closed.
Use the word shield a lot later. Remember?
Earlier. Shield.
What does a shield mean in literal terms? Shield is obviously a metaphor, right?
Yeah.
What does it mean? What is a shield?
The shield, again, this is me being annoying and going back because I'm very psychoanalytical and my therapy is very psychodynamic, so I always go back. Shield is when you're born, you're just in purest form. And, you start to understand and conceptualize the world. Physically, our body is our shield. And then emotionally, we then create shields.
Well, what is a shield? What is that?
It's like the sense of protection. It's the way that we've coped and understood the world. It goes down to our name and our belief about ourselves. It's a system that we create in order to feel safe and protected. From day one, little QK, little Queen's Kicks back in the day when he was 1 year old, you might not remember, but he had to survive the world as well. So did 3-year-old Chris. So did 15-year-old Chris. So did 25-year-old Chris. So those ways of protection against physical and emotional, that's our shield. And that's what's protecting us from sometimes perceived danger. It's not even real danger. We're so molded into our shield that we perceive danger cannot even get in. So like, if you don't understand that, you're not able to just like open that up, understand it better. And I'm not saying don't have a shield. Everyone has to have some level of shield. You know what I'm saying? I walk out this building, you know what I'm saying? My alerts are back up. I'm looking around, I'm looking at my shoulder. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm moving appropriately the way I need to move. But some people have that heightened sense throughout the day. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're in constant look for safety. And that is the shield. The shield is created, is a system you create in order to protect yourself physically and emotionally. And it gets hardened over time, dude. So much so that it's like even hard to like, gain the awareness of it, dude. It's not easy.
So it sounds like a shield is a belief system.
Yeah, it's a system.
A belief system that protects us.
Yeah, it's a system. It tells us what to do, what not to do.
So this is somewhat related to the word ego. So
it is ego. It's not even related. It is ego.
How would you define ego?
I just feel like Sigmund Freud defined ego. So it's an id, which is our more primitive selves. Sleep, right? And just that's it. That's our primitive system. Maybe a little pleasure, kicking a little feet and shit. Those little cute little pleasures throughout the day. You know what I'm saying? And reproduce as well. Let's keep it PG, but that part as well. Then that's our primitive self, right? And then the ego is what comes after. So the ego is the self that we create in order to manage our primitive self, but also stay within boundaries in order to not die. So that's the ego. Like, and the super ego is like more of our utopian, superficial way of value system and morality.
What's interesting about the word ego is there's so many different definitions, and to me, none of them are wrong. Like, if you actually go to dictionary.com or a dictionary and look up the word ego, there'll be like 3 or 4 different definitions. There's Freud's definition, monks have a different definition, psychologists have a different definition. Some people use it as interchangeable with self-esteem. The way that pride. So the way that Dr. K uses it a lot is,
how did Dr. K use it?
He uses it, I love Dr. K. He uses it as a defense mechanism against our insecurities. So for example, if someone is making us feel insecure, or if something is making us feel insecure, then the ego will come out to defend ourselves, to protect us, to make us feel safe, to make us feel not insecure.
Yeah.
That's how he defines ego.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
I gotta meet him someday. He sounds like an interesting fella. But yeah, that's the same thing I was saying before, kind of like the security part. That's the part that comes out and shields us against a threat.
Is the ego a good thing or a bad thing?
Good or bad, you can label it whatever you label it. If you lose your ego, lose the sense of self. You're being a psych ward.
But there are also people who are slaves to their ego, aren't there?
Sure, there's people who
have no control.
I guess their egos are slave to their id.
What is the id?
The primitive self.
What is primitive?
Primitive is our animalistic, innate identity or existence. Like, if we didn't have language, didn't have cell phones, you're primitive. You're like a caveman or a monkey, or you're there, but we have a brain with consciousness, prefrontal cortex, different parts of our brain that allows us to make choices.
So when somebody cuts me off on the highway and I want to cut them off again, is that the id or is that the ego?
Well, the id comes first with the anger or whatever emotional reaction you're gonna get, and then after that, the ego talks to the id, not literally, but like it negotiates with the id.
So the id wants to cut him off, and the ego says, "No, chill out."
The id maybe is conditioned to want to cut it off. Right? Like, it's been the way it's functioned. So yeah, if that's part of who you are, then yeah.
Interesting.
Like right now, let's say I want to fart. Right? The id wants to fart. It doesn't give a fuck. But the ego's gonna be like, yo, bro. Excuse me, I burped instead. But the ego is going to be like, nah, bro.
Well, see, this is what I was saying, because there are different definitions, right? Here it sounds like ego is the part that keeps us civil, and the part that...
Safe.
Right, which is like somewhat of a different definition than Dr. K's. It's like, it has multiple definitions, doesn't it?
I think it's the same. It's level of insecurity. Like, I don't know if you're going to get upset and then smack me in the face, so I'm not going to fart.
To protect yourself.
Yeah.
It's a protective mechanism.
Yeah, 1,000%. I need it. I need the ego. But I also need to manage it too. You know, because at times it gets out of pocket.
So what part manages it? What would you call that thing that manages it?
Wisdom. Like, wisdom and experience. Not trying to fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Just because I'm hungry doesn't mean I'm going to go rob somebody for their food. So, negative and positive reinforcements.
Yeah, so I did want to talk about self-control. How are we on time right now?
As long as that camera don't heat up and, you know what I'm saying, then we're good.
All right, because I did want to talk about self-control. Maybe this could be one of our last topics. So self-control, a lot of people lack it. A lot of people lack self-control. A lot of grown adults lack self-control. How do we increase that? How do we increase our self-control?
Well, funny thing is, I'm not a fan of the word control. I've had clients pop up and be like, I want you to help me control my emotions. And usually I'll make a joke out of it. I'm saying like, bro, unless you are going to a Buddhist monk somewhere and you can control shit, that's probably the place you go. I'm a fan of the word management.
Okay.
And I think managing is the goal. And then you will find a sense of control through management, if that even makes sense. It's like a little bit of a loop.
So how do we manage, how do we increase our managing skills?
That's a great question. First, you have to have a level of awareness that there's an issue. It's a cycle of change. That's a good answer.
That's a good answer.
It's a theory. It's a cycle of change, right? So you got to have awareness that something needs fixing or needs an adaptation. And then you have to have a level of acknowledgement that is an issue. And then you have to have a level of acceptance in that you are responsible for making that change if you know it's on you. And also accepting the things that you are not in control of. And then you have to have a level of action. And the action is the behavioral change. So it's AAAA, right? It's awareness, acknowledgement, acceptance, and action. And then once you are able to understand your emotions, you get a greater emotional intelligence, emotional awareness. It's going to help you manage your emotions a little bit better, because now you're capable of seeing it, and now you're able to manage it better. I don't know how else. I'm using the same words now.
Yeah, I like the way that you broke it down, the AAA. So it was awareness.
Whoa. That's trademark Panda right there.
Oh, wait, is that you? Is that you? Oh, that's you? Oh, I thought that was...
No, man. It's in the ethers, man. It just comes down to me, but it's not mine. So it's...
Awareness? Acknowledgement.
Yeah.
I know the last one's action. I don't know.
Acceptance. You got to accept that you are able to make change, and there are certain things that you are not able to change. And then you need action. So
I think a great way to increase self-control or managing, you know, however you want to put it, is constantly catching what your brain is doing. Whether it's, you know, whether it's, you know, lying to yourself, whether it's your being impulsive, whether it's your dark side coming out, whether it's, you know, saying, oh, just one more drink, one more drink won't kill me, you know, whether it's any sort of coping or any sort of splitting. You know, I think constantly catching what your brain is doing is a good solution. AAA is another way. You know, they work hand in hand, and you know, most people need help. Most people need some sort of, whether it's a therapist or whether it's just a great friend. 1,000%. Because you know, I am a strong believer, and you know, we should talk about this.
Let's talk about it. I got time, Papa.
So obviously you're my friend and therapist. However,
I'm not your therapist.
Sorry, you're my friend and a therapist.
But that's a whole other conversation. That can't be my friends, my
right.
anybody's therapist.
But the way that I look at it is, I would so much rather speak to a rational and compassionate friend than a random therapist. You know.
Okay, you want to go there?
Yeah, I want to go there. All right. Yeah, I'm not going to use you because you are a therapist. So I'm not going to use you. But I would like my brother. My brother's a good example. I'd rather speak to my brother who's very rational and very compassionate rather than a random therapist.
Okay. So here's the thing about that statement, right? And I understand it, and I love it because I get clients every time there, and they don't know what a therapeutic relationship looks like. And a therapist is not your brother, it's not anyone else in the world but your therapist. And the other person in the world has some level of influence and bias in your life. Your brother loves you. Shout out to your brother. Bias. You know what I'm saying? And he cares about you, and he's going to coddle you, and he's going to say, pat you in the back sometimes, or he'll be a shoulder for you to cry on when you get the most emotional. You guys could play the guitar together, whatever the case is. Okay? So that is different than someone who does not have that level of responsibility or bias towards you, but understands you on a deeper emotional, vulnerable level, because their job is to point out those uncomfortable things that maybe your brother is not capable of it because there's a different form of relationship there, right? It'll even be a disrespectful thing. Like if you brought up something to your brother about, let's say, one of his vices, right? But that's what a therapist does, because they don't give a fuck how you're going to react. In matter of fact, your reaction is actually good for the therapeutic relationship because he's going to call that out in the level of how you react to it. Your brother doesn't have that skill, doesn't have that expertise, doesn't have that training that a therapist has. I can go in there and just have a therapeutic relationship with my clients in which, you know, it's more of like, it's about the relationship dynamic, right? And it's not so much, it's not our exchange, it's their therapy session. It's not about me in those 45 hour. It's not about me, it's about them, it's their life. With your brother, with your mom, whoever it's going to be about both of you to some extent. I mean, it's not
I did like the word bias, you know, because there is often a bias, and 95% of people have a really, really difficult time seeing past that bias and putting past that bias away. I think there are about 5% of people who are good at it. That's a whole different story. I also want to say that, you know, with a friend or a family member, you know, if you want to speak to them every day or once a week or twice a week, eventually, you know, people are busy, adults are busy, and eventually they might reach the point where they're thinking in their head, or even saying out loud, you know, this isn't my job. This isn't my job to take care of him. Whereas with a therapist, it's literally your job to take care of them. So a therapist does not have the luxury to say, it's not my job, right?
Again, I forgot what our line is, but it's like, do no harm or something like that. Or like, I'll Google it later. Or ChatGPT could let me know what it is. But there's something within our code of ethics where it's like, you know, we're there to help, not, you know, be a detriment or mess things up.
And how has being a therapist helped or changed you and your mindset?
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. I think, you know, the training, the experience of meeting people, and also being able to be a support person in their life. I always say, you know, I'm here to help you help yourself. Right. So I think that just has given me perspective on people's struggles and life circumstances, and also like has me more like tuned into like mental disorders and mental illnesses. And, you know, I think that I would have never been able to see the spectrum of like these things that are like in our DSM, which is our like Bible, psychology Bible. If I wouldn't really work with people. So I'm like, wow, people are like freaking awesome. Like they're also like, they all have like this story, and it's freaking dope, right? Because I like my story, but also like I like to listen to other people's story. I'm an empath. It's part of my also like my personality, and just the lineage is in my blood, you know. And so it's like it's very like natural for me. And I think the results speak for themselves. Like I connect with my clients, and they connect with me, and, you know, we do good work together. So and I'm just touching the waters right now, Papa. You know, 2024, 2025 going to be bigger, and we're only going to do better from there. So
Yeah, bro. I kind of ran out of questions. I think
let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm here.
What are your thoughts on trying therapy? Because from my understanding, you haven't ever been to therapy.
I did it once online once I got my insurance back, because I didn't have health insurance for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I did it once online, and the guy, I wasn't feeling him. He was pretty radical, right? Pretty like, he was making a lot of like
in one session?
Yeah, he was making a lot of like comments, like he wouldn't say it out loud, but he would say something like, 20 years ago, if you took someone 50 years ago and plopped them in the world today, they would be, they would look at the world as crazy, and like he would just make a lot of like comments, and he wasn't a good listener, he wasn't a good talker, and then it basically got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'd rather just talk to my friends, or I'd rather just watch Dr. K on YouTube. And I do consider myself a pretty good therapist to myself. I know that there are some other people out there that are way more brilliant than me, but yeah, I mean, I tried it once, and I wasn't feeling it. So I'll probably eventually try it again, but right now,
what would it take you to try it again?
I think at this point it would take maybe either something happening, like maybe a loved one passing away, it's also like a time thing. Like in that time I could be, it's also a money thing. Like you still got to pay the copay, and I could be Ubering, I could be cold calling, so it's also a money thing too. So I've just been really busy making my own videos, so it's also a time thing too as well. Time and money thing.
Okay. Well, it's interesting to note the first part, right? Because I think that happens to a lot of people. They like try it once, or they try it in college with like the guy from the college advising department, or they try it with someone who just like is 70 years old, and there's
he did look about 70. Yeah.
There's no level of like compatibility towards a therapeutic relationship. And what I would say is like, don't give up on that. I think it's very similar to dating, but just like in a different way.
Keep trying.
Because that relationship is going to be very important for you. So I think just keep trying, learning and knowing what you want, but also just like keep giving it a shot, because you never know when there's going to be someone that you mesh with and that's actually going to be pretty helpful, and it's going to allow you to feel that level of openness to building a therapeutic relationship, and you never know what's going to come out of it. So for those folks who like, I know a few people, I like, my sauce is not for everyone either. You know what I'm saying? Like the next person, just like that guy didn't mesh for you. Some folks is, different sauce.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to make it clear that I am very, very pro therapy. Even though I don't see a therapist myself, I still am very, very pro therapy. It does save lives. It does, help with inner peace. And you just got to keep trying. And maybe I'm somewhat of a hypocrite because I don't go myself, but I'm not
spiritual. What are your?
I'm a science. I'm scientific.
Scientology?
Yeah, I'm scientific. Yeah. I've never described myself as spiritual before in my life.
So what does that mean, scientific?
Whatever the scientists say, I'll probably agree with. I can't think of anything that scientists, or at least the majority of scientists, say that I disagree with. Whereas spiritual is more like, they do disagree with some point. Like some people believe in reincarnation. But so whatever, my beliefs align with the scientists, you could say.
Well, that's interesting. I think that's something for another video, for sure.
We got part 2. We'll have a part 2 next year. I think we covered a lot this one.
Yeah.
Covered a lot.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me, bro.
Yeah,
Breaking
no problem,
bread.
Man. Yeah.
My man QK, shout out to the page, man. Don't forget to subscribe. If this shit hits 1,000 views, he's going back to therapy. Right?
I'll record it.
So, don't record that shit, but let's make it happen, man.
If it hits 1,000 views, we'll do a part 2. If it hits 2,000 views, if it's 2,000 views, I'll see a therapist.
There's always these layers of excuses that you have to wean through. And that's anxiety.
23 years. We've been dealing with each other for 23 years.
That's anxiety, my friends.
All right, boss.
My man.
Great having you, man. All right, man.
Peace.
Best episode so far. We covered a lot.
Covered too much.
Covered a lot.
Covered too much. Imagine the audio didn't work.
Almost got into a debate. Did it work the whole time? Was it recording?
It didn't.
Got nervous when you were playing with your phone?